Guys, I want you to imagine this, right? I want you guys to imagine you doing a deal. You guys make $15,000, $20,000 on one wholesale deal, one fix and flip deal, or you get a buy and hold that's going to give you passive income for the rest of your life, right? You get an amazing deal and it costs you $0 in marketing. You didn't have to cold call a seller. You didn't have to get cussed out at by Uncle Tom across the road. Instead, you do the method that my good friend here, Jonah, does to lock up all of his deals and did $1 million last year with this strategy. And I am super, super excited to have Jonah on here. Jonah, how are you?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. The last time we saw each other, we were at Arizona at a mastermind together. It was you and your
Yeah,
business
that
partner.
was a fun master. That was a fun mastermind. That was a while ago, but yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was a really good time. Yeah, and I heard kind of what you had going on at that time, and seeing where you're at now. I recently saw the podcast you're at with Steve Trang as well, and that was a really really cool podcast to listen to as well. So I'm glad you're
Yeah.
able to come on here, and I'm ready to kind of talk about how your business is doing. But before we do that, what I wanted to ask you is, like, take me back before you even did real estate, before you even knew that you even wanted to get into real estate. Like, who was Jonah before all of this, before he became a real estate investor?
Before real estate investor, I was in the Peace Corps. I was living in the Dominican Republic. I had a main project that was like a what they call a microempresa, or like a micro business in the Dominican Republic. I was in the hills of the Dominican Republic, helping out this female micro business that made peanut butter. And really, my joke is I ended up just being a peanut butter salesman for 2 years in the mountains of the Dominican Republic. And before that was college. So I basically, I did the Peace Corps, I did college, I did the Peace Corps, and then I went, and that was helping businesses and business stuff grow. And then I was like kind of lost after the Peace Corps for a while, didn't know what I wanted to do, was trying to figure out what would be the best business. Always had an entrepreneurial drive. And so I looked into different things, and the best one I found was real estate by far. I looked into stocks. Stocks, you need a lot of money up front to start making a lot of money. And it takes a while. And real estate just seemed like the way to go. It was just formulaic. And I learned about wholesaling, and I was like, wow, I just need to be able to relate to another human being. That's all I need to
Yeah.
do really well over and over and over again in order to make money. I can do that really well. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I was doing beforehand.
And where did you grow up? Where did you go to college at, and eventually get started in real estate at?
I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, Berkeley, California. Went to University of California, Davis.
Mhm.
So California kid, born and raised. I
Yeah.
now live in Colorado, but yeah, I grew up in California.
And is that where did you what did you major in college?
It was poli sci and econ. Econ helped
Nice.
out. It helped out with real estate and just understanding how what's happening in the world and how it affects other things.
Yeah.
But poli sci, nobody cares.
Yeah. And then you started real estate in California, which is like known to be like one of the most competitive markets pretty much in the country. So how did you get started in real estate? Where did you start, like, as a wholesaler? Did you start like wanting to do like another avenue in real estate, like fixing and flipping or buying and holding, or like
No, I
what did you want
really
to start
like
off as?
wholesaling. I started off as wholesaling, and I knew I wanted to buy and hold for sure, right? Like, I mean, that's a long term route to wealth. But wholesaling, I like it way more than fix and flipping. I've done a few fix and flips, and it's not for me nearly
Yeah.
as much as wholesaling is. I like wholesaling a lot more. Just I know my profit. I'm going to get my profit, and it's not like I'm fucking guessing on the good side or the bad side, right? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, like I like yeah, I like wholesaling a lot more. And yeah, and I like the idea of you need to have an active income business before you have a passive income stuff.
For
But I mean,
sure.
I own a couple of buy and holds. I sort of like them. They're okay. I think they're just more retirement plan type of stuff. And yeah,
Right.
and I'm looking to buy more. I'm seeing a 12 unit, tomorrow that's in South Bay. That'll be a $5 million purchase, which will be interesting. Solid financing. If I get that, that would be cool. That would be
Yeah,
like I
that's
add
a
a
really cool deal.
million or two to my net worth. So that'll be nice. But
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
And how did you find that deal?
A referral from a good
Okay.
friend. Vina Jetty actually sent it to me because she knew I was in the Bay Area and it was too small for her. I'm like, all right,
Okay.
I'll do this. So that will be cool.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll talk about more about referrals and how you find your leads later on. But I want to kind of start with the origin story here. You start off in California, right? Which is like people are scared to go into California, right? It's a competitive market. And so you start off with wholesaling. How did you start wholesaling? Did you talk to me about how you got your start
I
actually
originally
taking action?
started with like the normal way that most people do, cold calling, texting, that type of stuff,
Yeah.
right? Just direct to seller, which is great. It's a cool way to do it, right? I recommend it if you're super broke. I really liked it. I made a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
And then like a month or two in, I got kind of sold on Jamil Damji's program, Astro Flipping. I didn't know what it was. It was awesome. I learned how to talk to agents, how to talk to sellers, but even more agents and wholesalers. And I tried that route out. Um, and then I did both direct seller and direct agent for like a year, right? I made one deal of 10K. Didn't do very well in either because I
Hmm.
wasn't focusing in on either of them, right? My metaphor for this is I took my 10K, joined Pace Morby's program, sub two,
Okay.
right? Because I was
Yeah.
broke. So I was like, screw it, let's just keep spending money on education. Um, and I tried to be both of them, right? I tried to create both of their businesses at the same time, and that's not going to work, right? They're two separate businesses. Um, so eventually I just run out of money and I'm like, all right, I don't have any more money. So I have to do direct agent,
Right.
go all in on the direct agent route and, yeah, make a ton of money, and then I start getting like deals immediately. I start getting at least one a month, at least two a month, and eventually three to four, which is incredible for the Bay Area. And yeah, and it just snowballs.
Nice, nice. So you joined Jamil's Astro Flipping program, and then immediately after you got your first deal, you joined Pace's program. So, which are both
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal programs. And it sounds like when you were first getting started, you put a lot of emphasis on learning and education as opposed to like, for example, taking that 10K, putting it into marketing or like trying to, build up the business at that point. You wanted to learn more. Can you talk to me more about like your specific um, relationship with education and programs and learning in that stage of the business?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there. I'm assuming you wanted to know why did I buy Pace Morby's
Yeah, pretty
program
much. Yeah, pretty
immediately
much. Why did
afterwards?
you?
Like, why would I
Yeah,
spend all my money?
right. Yeah, pretty much. Why did you take all of the money you had while you were broke and put into a Pace Mortgage program?
So the reason I did that was I was already broke, right? And
Yeah,
I just had a feeling Pace's program was going to be amazing. Like I really
yeah,
connected with Pace. I really liked him. I was like, I knew I wanted to learn creative financing. It seemed super cool. It was an interesting way of buying houses, and I knew I wanted to buy and hold as well. So I was
hmm,
like, I know I want to learn this, so I'm going to go learn it, right? So I joined, right? Just because it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm 8K in credit card debt, but I just got 10K. Let's just pay that off and then do it again on another
right,
10K and just go for broke, right? I don't recommend it. It's just the way that I did it, right? Because I was that type
right,
of guy that's like, I'm gonna make this fucking work,
yeah,
right? Or have come hell or high water. So,
right.
um, yeah, that's just basically what it was. It's like I knew it would be what I needed to do in order to get to where I wanted to go. And it was the best decision I've ever made. Business wise, the two best decisions was joining Astro and joining Sub 2 by far.
That's incredible. And I wanted to highlight that because, and I see this with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, right? You have two people that go into entrepreneurship, right? The person that goes in pretends that they don't need any mentorship because right, they're the entrepreneur, they want to go figure it all out, be their own boss, right? And that's fine to a certain extent, but then you have the person that is just wants to soak up and pay as much of their ignorance tax off as quickly as possible. And that was you. And I see a lot of successful entrepreneurs go that same route, which is investing in their education first, getting the blueprint first, rather than trying to figure it out on their own. I mean, just based off of you doing that, how much time do you feel like you saved in your entrepreneurship journey, investing into Astro and Sub Two in that beginning stage of your business?
Oh, probably at least a couple, like 3 to 5 years,
Yeah,
probably. I don't think I'd be nearly as far along if I like it's the learning, and then also it's a mix of the communities, right? Like having these networks of people that can get things done for me all across the country. It's
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable, right? It's like an instant trust thing. If you're part of the community, like I can make stuff happen with you. We're instantly on the same team because of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even imagine having done real estate without those two communities. Like I don't know how people really did it before that. I don't understand how people did it
Yeah.
without any communities. It's really weird for me to think about. I was lucky. I never did real estate solo, basically. I felt like I always had a team, right? And it was super critical at the beginning to have these two giants that I could go to every single week and ask questions of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just amazing. And yeah, I'm eternally grateful to them, to their communities. It's amazing to be a part of them. And also TTP, which is where I know you from, right? I mean, TTP, I joined only like a year ago as like a coach, but I still really enjoyed being a part of it and having Brent as a mentor as well. So, yeah.
You could cut out there, but yeah, I see that you are a coach in TTP and you're adding a lot of value in that into that program as well. So and I want to talk about now like kind of like what your strategy is now. So you joined Sub 2 and Astro. They both teach, and by the way, for those that don't understand what Sub 2 and Astro flipping is, John, do you want to explain kind of what these two mentorships pretty much educate people on?
Sure. I mean, astro flipping is it's a wholesaling mentorship, right? Astro flipping is a wholesaling mentorship where they really focus on getting deals from real estate agents, getting deals from wholesalers. They teach
Mhm.
direct to seller too, but it's not their main focus at all,
Right.
right? And so that's like you're learning from Keegley, one of the best, biggest dispositions houses in the entire country. And it's awesome and I love it. And it's great for wholesaling. Sub 2 is a crazy, it's the main thing that connects everyone is creative financing in general. Creative financing goes into so many different sectors and pace is so crazy that it's almost just like a general real estate mentorship now. But the main thing is creative finance, Sub 2, seller financing, things like that, right? That would be like what it's about. So I'd say Astro is such a good wholesaling program, and then Sub 2 is such a good buy and hold um, long-term wealth program. And I think you should have both, in my opinion. At least I don't know. I'm one of the only ones I've realized who's really successful at both of them. I merged both of them.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are part of both, but there's always one side they're more aligned to. I'm aligned pretty evenly between the two, and I feel like I'm a pretty big part of both of them. Although I haven't been as big of a part of either of them in a while, just because I've been doing my own thing. But back when I would show up to both Zooms very consistently to figure stuff out.
And how are you kind of combining the two in your business? Are you like, because I know a lot of people in their business, they like to have, every 5 they wholesale, they'll buy and hold one, or like whenever they see a creative deal, they want to take it down. Like, how do you incorporate creative finance into your wholesale business?
So I buy all of my creative deals and I wholesale all the cash deals, right? That's more or less how I do it almost every single time. The markets I choose are really terrible buy and hold markets unless it's creative financing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm doing it in Columbus, Ohio. I'm doing it in California. I'm doing it in Colorado. I'm doing it in Florida's I don't like as a buy and hold. And certain parts of Colorado I do like as buy and hold. But yeah, I don't know. Just getting those low interest rates are just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Creative. Yeah. For those who have not learned about Sub 2 and seller finance, it is an incredible wealth building strategy. And
Mm-hmm.
so you find most of your deals through astro flipping. You find them through agent outreach and marketing to agents. Kind of tell me about how, because I know you did your first deal through just traditional, cold calling sellers and just grinding it out to get your first deal. How did you get your first agent outreach deal? How was that process like?
That's so interesting. What was my first agent outreach deal? I think I got insanely lucky on that one, to be honest. If it's the one that I think my first agent outreach deal, it was with my really good friend, Rebecca Lovashevsky. I don't know if she'll ever watch this podcast, but she's one of my best agents. We actually just did a deal together. Again, I usually do about a deal a year with her at least, minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
She it was like an on-market deal. I got it lower than what they listed it for, and I happened to be the highest price. And then I got insanely lucky. Basically, I'm marketing it. I posted in a Facebook group. Somebody's like I want it, right? There had been one higher offer than me, but it was the next door neighbor, and the seller did not like the next door neighbor, but the next door neighbor was an agent, and they saw my post in a Facebook group, and so they were like, "Yeah, we'll buy it. We bid 25K higher than you." And I'm like, "Great, awesome!" And I wholesaled it to them for 25K, and it was a nightmare. Nice. Because of that, because like the seller was like, "What the fuck? How did we end up selling to the next door neighbor in the end?" Right? And it's because I assigned it to them, and that turned into a whole nightmare of like, you broke this part of the contract, you broke that part of the contract, and I was like, no, you guys actually screwed up on this part of the contract, and it was like a whole thing. But we eventually ended up closing. It was like January of 2021, and I made like 25K off that.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was great. So, that was one of those like insanely lucky ones. That was probably like should have been a cancellation, but luckily it wasn't.
Yeah, so believe it or not, my first deal. So I'm TTP student, right? I'm all about direct to seller marketing, but my first deal was actually like a micro flip through a wholesaler, right? I was doing direct to seller for like the first like 5 months of my business, right? Had no success with getting a deal yet, and then on a Facebook group, I saw a wholesaler put this deal out, and I knew buyers that were in that area, and so I just reached out to her, like, hey, can I just find you a buyer? And long story short, I ended up selling that deal to a buyer that was already interested in her advertisement of that deal, and we just ended up like splitting it, and we made like, I don't know, a couple grand from my first deal. But I mean, like your story, it was like a very, very lucky situation. I feel like everybody's is almost like a lucky situation when you're doing it through a referral. It almost feels like you're just lucky, like, oh my god, like this guy just called me. It's great. That's lucky.
Yeah. I mean, mine was insane. I can't believe I found the next door neighbor accidentally, It wasn't actually a deal. They just wanted to live in it, right? I don't know. But yes, I agree. I mean, micro flips, I've done decent amount of micro flips. I don't do that many. I like the direct agent route. But yeah, those ones are just like, you just know enough people.
And so then talk to me about direct to agent. So like, how do you what is your formulaic way of doing it? Do you just go on realtor.com, just look up all the real estate agents that are on realtor.com and just start calling them? Do you pull a list? Do you advertise for them?
We now have a scraper now, which I can give. I don't know if we can put it in the chat or something, but we'll I have this scraper. I have this scraper that scrapes all the real estate agents' phone numbers off of realtor.com and then makes it into a list. So I'll just put that in there. It's like $500, and then you can just scrape as many lists as you want in any market, right? I'll send that to you now. But that's how I get most of my agents now. There are free ways to do it. You can just go onto the brokerage websites and write down all of their phone numbers and then upload them to something like my software or like any software, which is simplesend.com. You can just like my software. I made a software that's meant for direct to agent. Basically, it is my entire system as direct to agent sold to you guys for a really cheap price. That's how I do it, though. It's either through brokerage websites, PropStream. You can download all of the numbers too. You can do that for a little cost, but the best free way is brokerage websites.
Nice. And so let's say you were a beginner. You were teaching a beginner how to do this. So they scrape a list. They get all the agents in their market, and they want to start reaching out to them. Do you recommend people hand dial them? Are you putting them through a dialer? How do you do this?
So I recommend my own software, right? I think it is the best software. Okay. It does texting outreach and texting follow-ups automatically. It's how I get deals, right? You're using my exact same scripts, templates, automation, all my AI, everything that I use in order to close deals every single month, right? It's really what my 7-figure business is based off of, so it's what we used, right? it is the best way to do it, in my opinion. There's now a dialer integrated in there too. Costs extra money, but that's because we're just doing a third-party dialer. But I recommend all of it. Contact as many agents as possible. That's the whole point. I talk to people. It's like once you have 1,500 agents on follow-up every other week in a system, that's a deal a month minimum. You're forever, for the rest of your life, going to be making at least 6 figures. I don't care how bad you are at wholesaling.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how
that
long
would take a month and a half, by the way.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask you. How long would it take?
That should take about a month and a half. You should be able to add 25 minimum a day. It's 25 times 5 is 125. So maybe 3 months, 3 to 4 months, right? And that's if you're going slowly, right? If you do the cold calling and just do it all day, every day, that's all you're doing, it'll be even quicker.
Okay.
But it should take you about 3 months, and then you'll start getting a deal a month minimum, and that's if you suck at closing.
and then how do we actually have these conversations, right, with these agents? So let's just say we get in contact with them. How are we having the conversation?
So what you do is you first have an intro call with them, right? Just a 5-minute. You do basically you're going to send out a texting campaign. Once they respond, you call them and you're like, hey, my name is Jonah. I'm the real estate investor in Northern California. I do everything. I do buy and holds. I do fix and flipping. I do wholesaling. I do all of it. Now, if you don't actually do all of it, I actually do all of it. But if you don't actually do all of it, then I would say me and my partners do buy and holds, fix and flipping, and wholesaling, right? But what I do better than anybody else is solve sellers' problems. That's what I love doing. That's what makes it worth it. So if you ever come across one where it's about to be foreclosed on, no equity, tax liens, hoarder house, insane amount of work, my goal is to be the tool in your tool belt that you use to solve that problem and get you your commission. And I'm just curious if you know of anything like that right now. So there are 5 parts to that. It's the intro, which I did, introduce yourself. Say you do everything. The I solve sellers' problems along with the tool in the tool belt line. And then, do you know of anything? And then if they know something, write the info down, get the 4 pillars, TTP students, we can go over that. If they don't know of anything, or if they do know of anything, the 5th one is undying appreciation, being like, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, let's get a deal. I'm really excited. Something showing that you appreciate them. And if you do all that, that's an intro call. Do that 1,000 times, you have a business.
I love that. And what's good about that is that you're not just coming off as like some everyday fix and flipper like landlord that's probably calling them, once every week or every couple of times a week asking for, hey, do you have any deals available? Do you have any deals available? You're actually making it about a problem that they might have with a client, and actually just about the client themselves. So you're making it more focused on the other person on the other side, other than just yourself trying to find a deal. So that's great. So you have you said that
exactly.
If you get,
I think you got cut off, but yes, exactly. I
love it. So you said that if you get about 1,000 agents in your database that are on a biweekly follow up, so you're following up with these people biweekly. Is this through this? I think this is through text, right? This is through your system, right? Okay. And so how many of them respond? What is your response rate once they're put into your follow-up sequence, and how many do you actually, like, of those 1,000 are you actually like in constant communication with?
I would say probably out of 1,000 you're gonna have 2 or 3 that are VIP agents where they're like you're their guy, right?
Those are the best ones.
Probably a 5th of them are responding to your texts, maybe 1/5. And then some people respond once they finally have something. It just depends. Probably at any one time, probably a 5th are going to be actually responding to any single text blast.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know if you heard me. About a 5th.
Yep, I heard that. And then about how many agents do you think it would take for somebody using your system to get their first deal? Like how many, like if they're just going through through agents, do they need about 1,000 for them to get their first deal, or Does it start? Does the momentum start sooner? Where do you think the conversion
usually
is?
say about 1,000, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason being is that you probably aren't very good at it. It'll take me only 300, right? But it'll take like somebody who's new at it, like 1,000, just to get the reps in, right? And then once you get those thousands, you like kind of know how the process works, and then you'll get your first deal. So I say usually it takes 3 to 4 months for someone to get their first deal if they're consistently doing it every single day.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say that, because you're not going to be as good as me. But if you were as good as, if you're like a pro, it'll take you like a month.
So how can somebody get to being a pro as quickly as possible? How can they get to being from a noob to Jonah as quickly as possible?
Well, the easiest way is just use me, right? DM me on Instagram, start sending me deals in my markets, which is Colorado, Northern California, and Florida. If you send me deals, I'll tell you what to get it at, and I'll give you advice on how to negotiate and all that stuff. Work with me. That's how you do it the quickest way, is just learn from me directly by sending me deals and JVing with me.
So Northern California, anywhere specific in Colorado or in Florida?
You cut off. Say that again.
Oh yeah. I said, is there anywhere specific in Florida and Colorado that you want people to send you deals for?
Florida is basically everywhere. I like Central Florida, Tampa, Orlando especially, but anywhere, Miami, Jacksonville. Colorado, anywhere on, I think it's I-25 or I-75. It's the corridor, like Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and then Northern California, like Sacramento, California, or SF Bay Area. And in other markets too, I can like JV with other people that I know, right? But those are my main markets where I have like contacts and like things I can do.
Okay, love it. Okay, and so about 1,000 realtors, and then by then they'll start doing consistently about a deal a month.
They will do more of it pretty soon. If they keep that's after like 3 or 4 months. If they keep doing it and keep grinding it out, they'll eventually get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as many as they want. Basically, eventually it'll get to a point where they're so insanely busy they'll need to hire people, but they could get to 5 to 6 on their own.
And that's what I want to talk to you about too, is like once you get past that first deal, those first couple of deals, and you start seeing that consistent deal flow, now you want to start scaling that. Talk to me about how you scale a business like this, like, you know, the agent outreach model. How did you scale it?
So you first want to hire VAs, right? Depending on what type of person you are, the first person you want to hire is probably an admin VA, somebody who can just like run things and figure admin stuff out for you, and just get like pulling lists, doing like boring stuff, like uploading stuff to the CRM, stuff like that. That'll probably be first. Then second is probably it's probably like what I call an acquisition specialist, which is like a VA who only focuses on pulling on the lists and setting up intro calls for you, right?
Okay.
And then the admin VA can focus on everything else admin related, which is like, for me, like right now, hiring, setting up job postings, setting up the website, all sorts of stuff like that, right? And then probably the third one is like a dispo specialist, someone who's just finding buyers for you all day, just finding buyers all day, every day. So you're growing your buyers list and you don't have to worry about that anymore. Those are probably the first 3 that you really need. I also hired a systems engineer VA, someone who like really creates workflows and stuff like that. That's just for me. I really like it because I hate doing that stuff. And then after that, I would start hiring salespeople, right? You can just do all commission if you want. You can do it Brent's way, where you pay them a base. I like the all commission way if you're just starting out, because you don't know how to hire a really good salesperson. You don't know what you're doing, so you don't want to lose money, right? Commission, at the very least, you're not really losing any money. So I like that at the beginning, right? And I've been going more towards the commission. I like it more, where it's like a much lower base and a much higher commission, just because of the type. I like a hungrier type of person. You get salespeople, you train them how to do it, have them consistently doing deals, or as many as they can do, right? They keeping as many as long as you can, and just having that set up. And then after that, it's an operations manager, or a dispo manager, I'm sorry. Someone who's just selling all the deals. And then it'll be an operations manager, someone who manages everyone else. And then you have one market setup, right? And that's more or less one market setup. The hard part is keeping people motivated, keeping people closing deals, all that good stuff, and having them want to make a ton of money.
Right. Right. Awesome. Awesome.
And hiring the right people.
Exactly. And so then you have, so the interesting setup, it's kind of different than what I was expecting, especially coming from a direct to seller model, is that you have somebody that is on your software, right? And they're setting up the intro calls for yourself or your acquisition guy to be on the phone with. So they basically have their calendars filled up with calls for them to call and have intro calls with these agents to establish a relationship, right?
Yes.
Super cool. That's really, really cool. Okay. Got you. And so now what does your team look like today?
So my team, we were talking about this beforehand. My team's a little bit smaller. Me and my business partner recently split up. So my team is smaller. We're not quite doing as much as we were doing last year. But I'm keeping more of the money, right? So even if it's not quite as much, it's still keeping more of the money. And we split up like a month ago. So it's really been, we've been just starting to expand. I'm just starting to hire new salespeople, right? I kept a lot of my old VAs, but I needed the older salespeople, like it wasn't working out anyways. And so we're hiring new salespeople. This time I'm going to have it where people have to live in Denver when I hire them, so that they can come into the office every once in a while. I think that's super important and something I wasn't doing. I don't think you should have a virtual office, really, if you're trying to make it big, to be honest, which is what I'm trying to do. Eventually, you're going to need an in-person office. There's just something that happens when people learn together and constantly see each other, right? I'm going to do a mix. I'm going to do like 3 days virtual, 2 days in the office, and try that out because I don't particularly want to go to the office every single day. Yeah. But even having an office is, I just think, a really good place to meet and do stuff is a good idea.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, just a place where everybody can, where the culture can really thrive and actually build upon itself is really, really key. Yeah. So talk to me about hiring salespeople and just hiring people in general, right? You mentioned making sure that you hire the best people that you can. How have you gone about learning how to hire and trying to find the best talent you can for your company?
There's a lot of different things. One I would say is hire based on, like, the personality is more important than the skill itself. You can teach sales, you can teach anything, but are they the type of person that's going to be good at this role? That's really important. Obviously, getting someone who's experienced is much more helpful, right? Like if they already know how to do it. But what's much, much more important is, are they the right personality, right? Honestly, that's where all my mistakes have been. All the salespeople that didn't work out is because they have the wrong personality type, right? They have to be like me. They have to be salesy, right? And maybe not the most organized, but like can figure it out a little bit, right? And you have to just be on them for recording everything, right? And that's just what you need to do, I would just say that's the most important thing. There's a lot of things with hiring. Like there's like don't keep, if someone isn't performing after a month, maybe a month and a half, I think I might do a month and a half, then cut them. Like don't keep them on just because you feel bad for them. It's a month to a month and a half. They should have their first deal. Really a month, but like I do a month and a half because the first 2 weeks are just training for me. So really 1 month of work. If they don't have a deal, cut them. They're not the right person, Don't suffer through just because you feel bad for them. You feel like they should be performing. I've held on to people for like a year because they were loyal and really good human beings, but they were getting, like I had one guy I kept for a year. He only got 5 deals. Those 5 deals were huge deals. They were like more than 6 figures each. But it was like, you should be getting more than that also. It shouldn't just be randomly huge checks,
Right.
So, yeah.
And do you think that with salespeople, and not just salespeople, but just anybody in an organization, right? Do you think that certain roles can be taught? And I think I'm really talking more about salespeople, because salespeople, I think, it's sales is like, at least in my business, is it's very systemized, very processed, right? Like if it's very like Jordan Belfort, straight line, right? You can turn anybody into a closer. Do you think that there's a certain personality you need for good salespeople, or do you think that can be taught?
It probably can be taught. Probably. The thing for me is in my head, I would rather just not have to teach you that.
Sure.
Like, I'd rather just hire the person who's like, you're naturally good at this, right? Why am I wasting my time trying to teach someone who's like needs that help when I could just hire the person who's going to be amazing at it off the bat? There are certain people who are just so good at sales, they just like kind of can do it just from like their life experience. And then they just close deals immediately, you know? I could waste 2 months and get you your first deal, or I could just hire someone who's going to be good at it immediately.
Right.
That's how I view it.
And where have you found to be the best sales? How are you finding your best salespeople?
I just do it through Indeed, LinkedIn, all these places. I used to hire from my communities, which I don't like anymore because they all want to be entrepreneurs. So they all eventually leave me, and they leave me sooner than I want them to leave me. Right? Really, to get the ROI on a good salesperson, they need to be with you for 2 years. Right? So that's also something when I'm looking at a resume is how long did they stay with their last employer? If it's less than 2 years, I'm not as happy about it. I rarely hire those people anymore. I want people who are in it for at least 2 years, right? If they leave me after 2 years, it is what it is, but I should have made $1 million off of you after 2 years minimum.
Right. Love that. Yeah. And I like your point of trying to find the people that are naturally good at it without having to teach them. Cause I'm of that same philosophy as well, right? Find the people that are just, find the cream of the crop, right? It's like with Harvard, right? Yeah, sure. You can have a 4.0 GPA coming out of high school and, all these accolades, right? But Harvard chooses the top 6% of the graduating class, right? That's why they're Harvard. That's why they have the status of being one of the top Ivy League top colleges in the world, right? And they have that brand, right? Because they choose wisely. They don't just choose anybody, right? And that's kind of what you want to emulate in your business, right? You want to have that certain brand, that status of like having the best of the best, right? The real killers that you can just put in, and they'll just crush.
Yeah. And I'm still tweaking the formula, right? Like I tried out Brent's for a while, and I think that got people, but I think they got a little bit too satisfied in the role, in my opinion. I mean, they still got deals, right? But I like having it where they're a little bit hungrier. So I'm switching to a model now where it's like a minimum wage base and then a lot more commission than Brent gives, for instance. And I think I like that mix the most. For me, right? It just depends on every single person and what they like for their business,
Right. Tell me, Jonah, what is your why? Why did you choose to be an entrepreneur?
I do it because it's always good to remember this. It's to be able to retire my parents. That's one. Do whatever I want, financial freedom, all that good stuff. Be able to give millions of dollars to charity. I like the ego boost of it, of being like, hey, I'm successful as hell, right? I want to be one of the best. Why not? Why can't I be one of the best in the world at something, right? Like real estate investing or like real estate wholesaling. I want to be able to buy whatever I want and just have that security in that. I want to be able to kind of do whatever I want whenever I feel like it. And I just want to be doing dope stuff all the time, right? I love helping people too. Like the fact that I get to help sellers who are in distress really makes me happy, right? That's a huge part of the why as well. I would say the mix of retiring my family, taking care of my family, some ego about just being one of the best, and then also being able to give back to charity and being able to help sellers out at the same time. It just seems like the win all around.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I love what you said about why not? Like, why can't you be the top wholesaler in the country? Why can't you be successful at real estate investing? What do you think stops people from believing that they can't be that? They can't be successful?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I think it's how you're raised, right? I think it has a lot to do with upbringing. I think there's some nature to it as well about like what you feel like you're capable of and what's been shown to you in life. I feel like that's the main thing. Anyone could do it, but also like, do you have the resiliency, right? When something knocks you down. I mean, I've been knocked down in different ways three times in this business already. I'll get to a certain point and then I get knocked down, and then I get past that point and then I get knocked down to a somewhat lower point. Then I keep going up and then back down and going up and back down. That's business, right? A lot of people can't handle that. It's stressful. They want just a continuous slide, right? But business is like you're getting knocked down constantly and then growing and growing and then knocked down and growing until you get to a certain point where you're like good no matter what.
And so like I know that you, because I've met you in masterminds. I know that you've gone to other masterminds, right? I know that you surround yourself and you make it a priority to surround yourself with very efficient, very high level people, right? Tell me the importance of surrounding yourself with people that are like this. Let's say you're first getting started. Let's say you're already an entrepreneur, right? And you keep hitting the same wall, right? In self-development wise, and also just in your entrepreneurial journey. Me personally, I've found that the reason why that happens to a lot of people is the people they surround themselves with. Yes, mentorship is important. It's super, super important, and having that roadmap is key. But at the same time, you know, the environment in which you start off with, the environment in which you've put yourself in and that you've downloaded information from for the past 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, plays a bit of an important role. So talk to me about surrounding yourself with high level people and being in those types of rooms.
Yeah. I mean, what's the quote? You're the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with, right? So you want to be around a bunch of people who are making a freak ton of money, right? What you're doing in those masterminds, you're paying $30,000 in order to get into a higher room. That's what you're doing, right? That's the whole point. Is that now you're surrounded by people who have the money to pay $30,000 to be in a mastermind. That's it, right? That's the whole point of it, is so you can connect, do deals with them, meet other people, see what you can do together, right? Make more business happen. That is the entire point. Have people who've gone through what you've already gone through. Talk to them. It's like, well, how do I hire somebody? What book should I be reading to hire somebody? How does one do this, right? How do you set up this? How do you find a contractor? Whatever. And then you get all the answers you ever need for your business, and then you can start implementing them, right? So it's insanely important. I think once you can afford it, it's really good to spend money on that. I probably spent at least 50 to 70K a year on a new education stuff and new masterminds, right? So I always think it's highly important to keep spending money on masterminds.
And what do you think? And what do you think have been like the important takeaways you've had throughout being in these masterminds, right? It can be like something that you've learned, or even just through someone's mannerisms, right? What are the key takeaways that you've gotten over the years of being in these masterminds?
I don't know if there's one takeaway. It's different takeaways every time. I get whatever I need at that moment, right? So like, for instance, some masterminds, I just go to them and then I talk to Pace for 5 minutes and he tells me like, hey, yeah, have a home office, right? That's one that's been in my mind for the past year and a half, and I haven't been able to achieve it because of my business partner. But now that I don't have a business partner, I can just start an office, right? I feel like that is one of the key things that I've been missing in my business, right? There are other things, right? Like where it's whatever it needs to be, right? Like yeah, like it's just like how to hire somebody. Like I remember one mastermind, I basically learned how to do that the entire time, right? I was asking people who've hired people and done it more successfully than I had done it before, right? I get something different. I went to a mastermind like a month ago. What I got out of that was just more connections, right? I got a developer connection in Florida. I got invited to be a teacher in this program. We were talking about doing a TV show. I'm not ready for that. I got to text her and be like, hey, I don't think I can do the TV show, right? But she was like interested in the idea of doing a TV show. I don't have enough time. That shit is like slavery. I don't know if you talked to Jamil or Pace about it, but like that's just like all they can do during the filming session, and I don't want to do that right now. I don't have a huge business where like I could just be on a TV set all day, you know? One day that'd be a fun thing to do, but as of right now, it's just not like it.
Awesome. You cut out there. Did you say something at the end?
I just said that I don't have the time for that right now.
Gotcha. I hear you. And so I love that. I mean, I've made it now like a very top of mind goal to attend more masterminds and be in those rooms, and that is super important. I feel like that you gave the number earlier in the podcast, right? You know, if you hadn't joined Pace and Jamil's programs at that point in your business, you would have added an extra 3 to 5 years in your journey as a
Yeah.
real estate investor versus where you are now, right? And for the audience, like if you just imagine being in a room, right, where you have, you know, 50, 25, 100 people that spent 30 grand to be in that room, right? And everybody
Right.
in there is most likely doing better than you, right? Just imagine what you're going to come out of there learning, not just what they teach you, and not just what the people on stage are going to teach you, but just talking with somebody that does, you know, that's like Jonah, right? That's super successful in wholesale, right? You get to interact with people like him, people that are huge fix and flippers, people that have real 7-figure plus 8-figure plus businesses, right? What could you really learn just from being around that environment is super
Yeah, but
critical.
I will say this, don't do it until you're ready, right? Like there
True.
are levels to these things. You should be making 30 grand a month minimum, right? Before you do something like that, because you're not
Hmm.
going to be useful to anybody and they're not going to be useful to you. So you got to also put yourself in the right room, right? Just in
Hmm.
the same way that like if I was put into 100 grand room, right, where everyone paid 100 grand, I probably wouldn't be that useful to these guys because they're doing way more than me, right?
Right.
So you have to be in the right room where like you are going to be able to do stuff with other people too as well. So I would say
Hmm.
that because I know some people who bought 30 grand masterminds and they like have barely done a deal yet. It's like you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. And how do you, let's just say you've gotten to the point where you can get into those rooms. How do you present yourself as a person of value, like somebody that can offer value to these individuals?
You should probably know if you need to ask yourself that question, don't be in this room. You should know what you should be of value to other people. For me, I can find incredible deals for people, right?
Right.
I can do insanely, I know a lot about creative financing. I know how to talk to agents. I can get insanely good deals, right? And I've built
Hmm.
7-figure businesses, right? I can very easily articulate my value. If you feel like you don't know what your value is, don't join these rooms, right? You should know your value and what you're
100%.
able to do before you join one of these rooms. Um, and like, if you're trying to get there, like the first mastermind I ever joined, I think I paid 25 grand and I was just a solopreneur, right? I was making like 20 to 30 grand a month, but I was just a solopreneur. I'm like, okay, how do I scale this? Right? That's why I'm joining this room. So also having an
Hmm.
intention of why you want to join this room and like what you're looking for is really important. Don't just join just cause. Like, be like, why do I need this? How is this going to
Hmm.
help my business? What am I looking for?
Love that. Love that. So what are your goals, Jonah, for this year going and beyond? What are the goals for your wholesale business? Do you
This
want to expand
year, I
beyond
want
wholesale? Talk to me.
my wholesaling business. I want to have it where it's generating 7 figures again a year at least, and this time I own the whole thing, right? So like right now, we're probably since we split, we're probably at like six. We're on hour. We are on track for like 500 to 600K this year. But I want to get it to 1 million, where it actually hits 1 million. And this time I own the whole company. So we had a business that was making about 1 million, but I only owned half of it. Next this year, we're going to own all of it and have 1 million in revenue. That's the wholesaling side. And then I want to just be like at least buying one buy and hold a quarter. I really hope this 12 unit is looking really good. It's going to be 15% down on a $5 million building at 0% interest. So it's going to be really sick.
Deal,
I'm
man.
just going to
Great
have to
deal.
raise the private money. It's going to be great. 0% interest is
Yeah.
always awesome, right? But I'm overpaying the property for by 1 million. But after 15 years, it'll have a 15-year balloon. But after 15 years, it'll probably have like 2 or 3 million in equity. It cash flows right now today about 3K a month. So if it cash flows, it probably the payments are going to stay the same. Taxes and insurance will go up, but it'll probably cash flow 10 grand a month within 15 years. And then, yeah, and then either I'll sell it or refinance and keep it forever, right? And that could be just, I mean, that one asset will make it where I have my retirement if I felt like it. Like if I felt, I'm 29 right now, I just turned 29. If I felt retiring at 46 was the right move, I know with that one building I'd be able to, right? So I want some more buy and hold opportunities as well. I want to be able to be sure that I have those going at the same time. So I just want to be growing the portfolio slowly, doing that. This year is just going to be getting the wholesaling business back to where it was, because I like having a lot of active income. I like having it where I'm making, to me, at least 300 to 500K a year. It's just nice. Once you hit about 500K a year, I feel like anything above that, active income wise, doesn't even matter anymore. And I just want to get back to that again and have it where I'm not working too much either. Like I'm probably just going to be working 8-hour days instead of 10 or 12.
Right. I love that. And so how are you, as opposed to now that you're doing it solo, scaling to 1 million, what are the action items or systems or people that you're putting in place to hit that?
So I'm testing out I need to hire a systems engineer. I have one that I don't know if it's going to work out or not. I hope she works out. She's like been an old employee of mine. I don't know if it'll work out as a systems engineer. If not, I got to hire a systems engineer, hire the salespeople again. If I have salespeople coming in, right now what I'm doing is I'm outsourcing the dispositions. So in these 3 markets, I have 3 dispo companies that I'm just going to send everything to, and they just tell me what to lock stuff up at. Right. Mm-hmm. That's just easier for me. I don't like worrying about dispositions. I'm an act guy, right? My business partner was a dispo guy, but he wasn't doing it. So we're just going to go. I just don't want to deal with the dispo side right now. When I hire a COO again, or hire a ops manager or someone who's in that, who has an integrator side to them, we'll open up dispositions again, and that'll just immediately increase revenue if we have a dispo side. But yeah, we got to start there,
Love that. And so one last question for the podcast. If you could go back, right, to when you first started, would you change anything? Would you change anything from this journey? And if so,
what
would you
funny.
change?
That's the last question I always ask on my podcast.
Is it?
Yeah, literally. That's always the question I end it with. No, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, there's always things where it's like, man, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? Right. But who knows where I'd be? I'm here where I am now, and I'm happy where I am now. I love how much money I'm able to make. Maybe if I made other decisions, I'd be farther ahead, or maybe I wouldn't be as far ahead, or maybe I would have been hit by a bus. Who knows? So I don't worry about it. I'm like, I did everything that I did the best way that I could, and I'm glad that I'm here now. I'm here today.
I love that. Any last words for the podcast? I really appreciate it, taking time out of your busy day to come on here and share your story.
No, man, just thank you for having me on, everybody. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram. I'm pretty responsive, and no, I just appreciate you having me on, my man. Thank you for DM messaging me, and yeah, no, it was great. You're a good interviewer. This is going to be a good podcast. And I'm excited, and tag me and stuff so that I can repost everything that you post.
Oh, you know it, man. You know it. Guys, this has been the Real Tales podcast. Thank you so much, Jonah. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.